So one of the biggest problems in politics is that we're surrounded by complicated and in some cases really broken systems. And we pretend like the entire system can be fixed by just looking at a tiny part of it and cutting that bit out, all while believing that nothing bad could possibly happen. Our healthcare system is about as complicated as it gets, and as I've said for years, it's full of problems. But I've also said, as someone who's actually experienced the terrible alternative that is the reality of socialized medicine, the American system is still the best. It's like what Winston Churchill said about democracy, that it's the worst form of government except for all the other options. American healthcare isn't perfect, and its parts aren't perfect. Insurance companies aren't perfect. Hospitals aren't perfect. Pharmaceutical companies aren't perfect. PBMs aren't perfect. Pharmacies aren't perfect. You get the point. And they all have problems that need fixing. But we need to fix them while also living in reality and weighing the consequences of fixing it with a scalpel or a sledgehammer. So Arkansas, for example, just passed a law that's not only going to kill jobs and maybe even raise prices, but stands as a warning for other rural states that if this kind of legislation spreads, people could be left stranded in pharmacy deserts. So Act 624 bans pharmacy benefit managers, PBMs, in Arkansas from owning or even operating a pharmacy in the state. And the argument goes something like this. PBMs negotiate drug prices, and in some cases, they also own pharmacies. So the theory is that this is unfair competition, so the government should just ban them from owning pharmacies entirely. Sounds simple, sounds well-intentioned, and even sounds kind of good on paper, but we don't live on paper. In Arkansas, this law could force CVS to close 23 stores because CVS owns a PBM called Caremark. And this is even more controversial than it sounds because it also looks like Walmart was intentionally excluded from the law, which kind of throws the fair competition thing out of the window. But let's zoom out from just Arkansas and look at what this kind of thing could mean for other rural states if this form of legislation takes hold. Getting rid of a few pharmacies here and there doesn't sound like a big deal if you live in a city where you already have a ton of choices. But in a lot of rural states, a town losing one pharmacy means the town is losing its only pharmacy, which results in pharmacy deserts, entire communities without a single local pharmacy, where people have to drive hours to pick up insulin or antibiotics for their kids or other drugs and services they need. And if pharmacies close, that means less competition and less choice and more demand on the pharmacies that are left over, which means longer lines, slower service, fewer options, and higher costs for everyone. Plus the jobs that are lost when any business closes down. Again, like the entire healthcare system, it's fair to ask tough questions about how parts of it operate and push for more transparency or whether there are conflicts of interest or even push regulation if that's what's really needed. I'm saying all of this as someone who wants to make the healthcare system better, but I want to do it by looking at the whole integrated system and not just hyper-focusing on the latest thing that's to blame, whether that's big pharma one day or insurance companies the next. Politicians love going after issues with a sledgehammer because it makes them seem like they're really serious about a problem. But once they're done taking photos swinging the sledgehammer around, they're usually long gone when the dust settles, and we're left with the consequences. And as usual, regular citizens are the ones picking up the pieces.